Lamborghini Countach. Who'd have thought that would have ever came back? And I'll tell you what, this is probably going to be one of those cars that sits on a turnstile in someone's high-end garage for the next 10 years. It'll have 200 miles on it by then. And I tell you, I don't get that, because to me, that's like dating Halle Berry and saving her for the next guy.
You're right.
But it's not cheap.
That's the Halle Berry.
And it's exactly, it's not cheap, and it's all sold out. But who's buying these cars without? I mean, you really don't get a chance. You say, "Hey, this thing is available. Do you want to buy it?"
Well, let's get something out of the way here real quick, though, because it's what everybody's been talking about. It's developed with like the Scion technology, and so everybody on Instagram and all over the social media channels have been saying this is a body-kitted Scion, which...
Oh, that's a tough statement. But it does make the sale easier, because honestly, to me, if you're going to spend almost $3 million on something and you don't get to drive it or see it, it's like signing up for drug testing from a drug company. You know, you don't know whether you're going to get the placebo or the real thing, and are you going to end up with boils all over and maybe erectile dysfunction?
Oh, God.
Tony was explaining all of his styling concepts because he's a big styling guru to me earlier, and I'm married, so I always just say I completely agree, but I really wasn't listening.
Okay, I was wondering why those one-word responses were so...
You're always talking about all these different shapes, you know, in lineage and all that stuff, and to me, I don't really get that. I mean, when they lay it over to me, like the intro did, where they show, oh wow, look, you can really see the shapes in it, I get it, but Tony picks up on real little nuanced stuff that I didn't think that people actually were doing, but you being a styling guru, I get it. I do like the fact that they stayed with a V12, and I like the fact that it's that they're saying it's a hybrid, but honestly, it's a little 30 horsepower kicker motor. So honestly, it's just trendy. I bet you could take that off there and no one would even notice it. It's 30 horsepower.
Yeah, you wouldn't really notice it. And that's another thing too, is if you notice like all of the LP symbols that are underneath the cars, like the LP700 was the original Aventador. This is actually an LPI. And that additional I stands for the hybrid unit that's in there. So it really bothered me, and I had to figure out why it was, and it's Abrito, which is Italian for hybrid.
The thing about this car that bothered me the most is that I still think that it needs a rear wing.
Oh my, thank you. You hit the nail on the head. Because that was the first thing when they said this was the Countach. No one pictures the original Countach, like the concept that first came out back in the 80s. Or sorry, not the 80s, the 70s. This is the 50th anniversary of the Countach, and I was thinking about the 80s version of it, that, you know, the white with the, you know, the big chunkiness to it, and the front bumpers, and the big spoiler on the back. But that's not what they designed this after.
But this car is really expensive. I mean, it's $3 million. And it's like my favorite dancers at the girly club. They work really hard and eat very little to stay up on that pole. And I don't know if this car it's not been out in the wild yet.
No.
So, I mean, as far as that goes. But does this thing really know how to dance for that kind of money?
I mean, the Scion has been. So I
guess if you compare it off of that, and I do love the Scion, and I will drink to that.
You whiskey girl.
So one other neat thing too about this is that they call it the Countach Line, and that was for the LP500 and the LP400, and it maintains that same Countach line over the top of this car, which I thought was pretty cool. And they even went to the point where, if you look at, obviously this is kind of like an Aventador in a sense, they had the radiators that are up front. That's why you see those big ducts up front on the Aventador. They actually moved those to the rear, and so they could slant the nose farther down on the front, which I thought was pretty neat. And the rear is actually where they had the original Countach radiators as well.
Well, Tony said a key word in this thing, though, that he said the word maintain. And I don't know if you know anything about Lamborghinis, but they do have some pretty expensive maintenance prices. And maintenance on a car is like somebody asking you how your time in jail was. Oh, I love the stale bologna sandwich in the toilet in the middle of the room. I'm not sure who their decorators are. But no one enjoys either of those. And that's the thing is with these cars, I think that they need to... I don't think that they're real expensive, the Huracans, to maintain, but these cars are getting pretty crazy. But I don't know, what's the maintenance going to be on a capacitor? I don't even know how much a capacitor costs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that technology is evolving and changing, but at the same time, I still don't see why we need that on this car other than to just be trendy.
I wonder, like we had talked about before, we don't even need it on there. I wonder, like, when you get your Countach, if we could just, if that goes out, if we could just drop it off. Like in the garage, we'll just
I want to
swap,
take
just
that
take it
capacitor
off.
off there, but I'm sure that it's built into the transmission, and they probably did the same thing that they did on the other cars, where they make the transmission part of the reverse, so there's no reverse on the thing. So the motors.
I don't think that's on this one.
That'd be fantastic if they didn't do that. I do like on this the nose, because the thing about the old Countaches where they had that big legal bumper front end thing, they paid an homage to that without messing it up.
Okay, because I was going to say, if you look at the back, I was wondering why I get the 4 exhaust, but there's like that protruding back middle part bumper, and I thought that was paying homage to the original Countach with those gross bumpers on it.
You know me, I don't like anything when I first seen this. The first time I saw this car, I was stunned, shocked, amazed. I absolutely loved this car. It does need a rear spoiler, but I couldn't believe that they could do such a beautiful job of updating that styling without losing it. And we talked about this before with all the Ford GTs. As they kept improving the Ford GT, you could still see the original one in it. They absolutely nailed this as far as is paying homage to the original design.
Yeah, the Quattro valve in the original Quattro valve, when they had the front, that's where you see that hood where it has a little dip and a little line in the front. That's actually going back to the original Countach as well, which I thought was pretty neat. So you're picking up on the cues more and more as you look at this car. It can't just be a one and done type thing. You really have to look and really understand all of the other Countaches that were before this too, to see them all put together into this.
Right. Do you hear an alarm going off? So our whiskey girl was in Monaco last week, and this was outside of her Hotel de Paris. This guy painted this car right there on the street. And I don't know how people with Lamborghinis can always get away with absolutely doing crazy modifications to their cars to personalize them. And you do that with a Ferrari, and it's blasphemy.
And that's one of the reasons why I've always been a huge Lamborghini fan, is because to me, it's an expression of your styling. And I believe it was Frank Sinatra said, you buy a Ferrari when you want to be somebody, you buy a Lamborghini when you are somebody.
And I, you know me, I'm a Ferrari guy. I really love Ferraris, love the sound of the engine and the whole deal. But I do like the fact that if you have a Lamborghini, it's okay to modify it to your taste.
Yeah, whatever it is.
It doesn't seem to harm the value of the car.
Right.
But if you do that to a Ferrari, wow, the value plummets.
There was that really famous DJ who wrapped his car in these crazy wraps. You can Google it, I'm sure, but he got a cease and desist from Ferrari, he sold it. He's like, you're not going to tell me what to do with my car. Like, if I want to wrap it pink or purple or whatever colors, it should be allowed.
It's an acceptable deal. I do like on this car in the interior, they really did a fantastic job with the interior of this car. It's got a big old 8-inch screen.
8.4.
Yeah, big old thing. It's got all the crazy, I love those fighter jet switches. Don't ever lose those. Because I love switches.
Yeah.
I hate all these electronic buttons
and they're metal
stuff
too
because,
and everything.
Yeah. I mean, the layout of the interior is fantastic. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure who does the design of the interior on the Countach, but I'm telling you what, the shots show I can absolutely see the Miami Vice 80s era inside, but it's modernized.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And the one neat thing that I've found that separates this from the Scion, other than the styling cues on the outside, inside you have a stile button, which is Centro Stiles who designed this, and they design a lot of these projects with Lamborghini. And the stile button will actually explain the Countach philosophy and the design process for those who own the car. So that's the one you get an extra button for $3 million.
There is one design process that Tony's not going to like. The fact that they still use that same steering wheel.
Oh, God, please.
I never noticed how annoying that wheel was. I always liked the wheel. It was fine by me, but now that Tony spotted it, that he doesn't like it, now it's annoying me.
I'm telling you, we would have a rough time at the Lamborghini factory. If we sat down, I'd be like, get it out of there. I'll bolt one on myself when I get home.
You're
I don't
right,
want it.
because there are a lot better looking wheels out now.
Why isn't there? they do a great job with their dash and the speedometer and the tach and everything. Why haven't they done that with a steering wheel?
Yeah, that
they
really
know they have.
needs
There's got to be a
updating.
racing steering wheel they have laying around. They could just slap in there. Would be great.
Yeah, that really absolutely needs updated. One of my favorite parts of this car, there was a reviewer that was talking about the fact that he didn't like that big giant open duct on the side of it. And that's my favorite part of the car.
They made it a lot larger than the original one. Which
Yeah,
I mean, it's the whole
but
side of the car
I
now.
absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Come on, that's stunning. You know that's stunning.
And you wouldn't have seen it at first, but there's also what they call I'm going to say this wrong, the periscopo lines or periscopio lines, and it's on top. So you have to see like this version right here where you can see the top of the car. It goes from the back to the top of the car, and you can see that entire line right there. And it also gives you that interior you can look up as well. But that was on the original, I believe, the LP 500 that was on there. But you don't see that on the later version of the Countach. But of course, you see little vents and everything as well that are on that picture.
Well, I'm ready to toast or roast this thing. I hear squealing noise.
Toast or roast.
Well, one of my biggest problems when I saw this car is right off the bat, I absolutely loved it from the nose, and as it panned down to the back, I was really disappointed that it didn't have a wing. Now, the wing's not a deal breaker for me, but I hope that they do something at Lamborghini, because remember, this car is sold and it's done.
Right.
But MSO, McLaren, has those parts kits that you can buy to add stuff to cars after the fact.
Oh, yeah, we can bolt on your garage.
If Lamborghini did that, we could get my spoiler on the back.
Okay.
Now you've taken a car that is absolutely as close to perfect as you can be and make it perfect. And you could do it via Lamborghini.
Now, since it's $3 million, shouldn't those be included?
Well, you would think, but I can't imagine that. If you probably tried to add a spoiler, they're going to probably ding you for 20, 30 grand.
I mean, because I don't know if I feel comfortable drilling into this car. But
I know, but honestly, I honestly think this car absolutely needs a spoiler. And if they did add it as an aftermarket thing from Lamborghini, it would still count as being proper. But you know, I never thought about something. These cars haven't been delivered. So maybe the delivered cars will have the spoiler on them, and it's good to go already.
Maybe they're making this one clean like all the original concepts of the Countach. Maybe they're making these ones clean, and then.
But if they don't,
ones.
I'm going to ding it. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give this thing 2 ratings, because here's the thing, is if this thing comes out with a rear spoiler, I think it's just going to be about as perfect a job as you could possibly do, and I'm going to give it the same number that I gave my SVJ. It's going to be an 84, 85 range, okay? But it's not, I haven't seen that yet. So I'm going to ding it hard, and I'm going to give you an idea, Lamborghini, how important that rear spoiler is to me. I'm going to give it a 70.
Wow.
I know that's a hard hit, but it needs that spoiler, because that spoiler really, when that came out, I was of age when that was around. So when that came out with that giant rear spoiler on it, I was in awe, I was shocked, amazed, and this car needs that. Well, and that will finish the car.
That's a great point, though, because the Countach is such a legendary car. That was on hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of walls of every, like, boys and girls growing up. I mean, that was an iconic car. I don't know if this is going to have that same effect.
But if they put the spoiler on it, it will. But I dinged it. I'm at 70 without it. So it's going to climb high if they put it on there. So make sure you get that spoiler on there, Lamborghini.
Yeah.
As far as performance goes, I'm sorry, your styling number?
Styling number, I mean, it's actually going to be a little bit lower than yours, because to me,
you hit it hard too.
Yeah, I gave it a 68 because
okay, so
it's just I get what they're doing. From a design aspect, I see it. It took some time, but I see it. But when I saw the teaser shots, I expected so much more. You know, I think a lot of people did. I get it when I see it now, but that's.
If they add that spoiler, it's a game changer.
It'll help it. It'll definitely help it.
Performance-wise goes, you can look at this and tell that it's not going to have the same downforce as a Scion. I mean, they might say that it is, but I'm sorry, you're going to need wings, you're going to need a lot more arrow shapes, and and I could be wrong, they haven't released some serious hard numbers, but when I look at it, unless Dallara has gotten into this and done some shapes with it, I don't, because you've seen that Dallara Stradale, we did that episode before.
Bring him back.
Where you look at that car and you can't see 1,800 pounds of downforce, but it's there, and if Lamborghini pulled something off with this Countach to create a crazy amount of downforce, it will have a big performance number because it's basically a Scion with just a different shaped body kit on it. But it doesn't visually look like it has the same downforce, so I'm going to ding it as well, and I'm going to make it 70 square, so it's 70 in styling, 70 in performance.
Oh well, I mean the Scion's a great car. It's got tons of power, so. This is the same drivetrain from the Scion. Nothing's changed. So I would give it a good score on that. So I'd probably give it a 74 on that for me.
Same deal on this one for me. I'm going to say that there's no possible way that Lamborghini will release this vehicle without the option to add a rear spoiler. With that in mind...
One more thing.
Uh-oh.
Let's see a Diablo. Let's see a reinvented Diablo. Is that next?
Yes.
Is that next Lambo?
Do that.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be fantastic. See, now I'm super excited, so no matter what, I'm taking a drink. Congratulations, Lamborghini. You got a toast. Well, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. And you know what they say, if you have an opinion that's different than ours, keep it to yourself.